Welcome. Difficulty level of this video is Novice. This is a continuation of our series of retro-futurism book reviews in which I take a book from many years or even decades ago that predicts the future, and we see how their predictions fared or not, and whether there are useful discussions of the first principles of technology in those books. Now, today's book is The Biotech Century by Jeremy Rifkin. This book came out in 1998, and as you can see, my well-worn copy means I bought it while it was a relatively new book. I bought it, in fact, in I think 2001 from a brick-and-mortar bookstore, Borders Bookstore, which I've talked about in other videos. The fact that the e-commerce revolution has made Borders Bookstore completely vanish and other bookstores like it are either gone or greatly diminished is itself one of the subplots of technological disruption. But back to the actual book. This book is not very well known because it caters to biotech and approaches it from the standpoint of futurism, which is not a very large subgenre of futurism because a lot of biotech people don't really write that much about futurism. About this book, it's not an easy read because there's absolutely no pictures in the entire book. I'm someone who likes illustrations to help anchor the text in a particular book and certainly enables more focus for that, or just some visualization opportunity to, grasp more of the material more easily. And then the fact that this book has no pictures in it means it's not a very smooth read, but it's still a very informative book. Now, as far as predictions go, in the very start of chapter 1, written in 1998, he says, by 2025, the world would be unrecognizable from a biological point of view. Now, that was a bit over-optimistic. There are certainly a lot of elements of progress in the field of biotechnology, genomics, and other associated areas, but the progress has certainly been incremental, not truly revolutionary, other than somewhat more progress in agriculture, medicine, things like that. Nothing truly foundational. So the 7 chapters in this book are 1, the Biotech Century, 2, patenting life, 3, a second genesis, 4, a eugenic civilization, 5, the sociology of the gene, 6, computing DNA, 7, reinventing nature, and 8, a personal note. Among the many predictions in this book, what has occurred is vastly higher agricultural yield and the lowering of the cost of the human genome. And my Atom publication that comes from the US federal government that shows how dramatically the cost of genome sequencing has fallen. It has fallen much faster than the cost of computing as well. To the credit of the author, Mr. Rifkin, he mentions a little bit about radical life extension and longevity, but he has not made the whole book centered around that wish that humans can be made immortal or nearly immortal or even be given lifespans of about 150 years. That is a very common fad in futurist circles, and I've been very vocal about saying that's more driven by emotional need rather than hard science. Radical human life extension and human immortality is not a necessary condition for all technological progress. It is something that is driven more by emotions of people who are in futurism circles. Human immortality is not a necessary condition for technological progress, and therefore the first principles of technology do not necessarily lend themselves to diversion of all exponential technological momentum towards radical life extension for humans. And as I've said in other videos, I will change my mind when certain well-published benchmarks are ratified, which are whether among people who cross the age of 100, a substantial percentage of them are crossing the age of 110. At the moment, only 1 out of 1,000 people who cross 100 even crosses 110, which tells me that there is a hard biological limit and a distinct wall that nature puts into. But to his credit, he doesn't go crazy on that particular subject, even though this is a biotechnology book. Now, he also speaks about DNA as the new paradigm of computing. other people all have their pet technology for what will be the successor to Moore's law and transistor-based computing and computational gains based on the shrinkage of transistors. Over here he says DNA computing. That was in fact a very popular idea in the 2000s because DNA can store a huge amount of data and possibly much greater processing. I mean, DNA consists of, what, 4 letters. It's very elegant in its simplicity. But at the moment, that does not look like it's going to be the ultimately new paradigm of computing. And therefore, that has not happened within the time frames that Mr. Rifkin has been describing. Now, for the rest of the book, some of the forecasts are further out, more specifically towards the middle of the 21st century, and it remains to be seen if some of the things that he expects to occur do in fact occur. And he also speaks about the sociological impacts of being able to add genetic enhancements to unborn fetuses and designer babies, as they say, although he expected that to be much further along by where we are now, writing from 1998. So overall, this is a book that I do recommend if you are interested in the genre of biotechnology futurism. As I said, it's not an easy read. If he does an updated version, I hope he does put some illustrations in the book. But if biotech is what you're interested in and you're looking for some retro futurism books, the Biotech Century by Jeremy Rifkin, which was in fact a national bestseller according to the cover, is one that you may want to look into. I will put a link to its Amazon page in the description box. Thank you for watching.